1-0. And welcome to ITV News Meridian.
The digital world of television we all know today seems a world away from when ITV first started broadcasting in 1955. Author Matt Eastley from Paddock Wood has been looking at how the public's perception of the channel and the technology used has changed. Indeed, back then, no computers, so any on-screen captions had to be handmade.
There was a huge amount of controversy around the launch of television, and what can only be described as a moral panic from the institutions, including the BBC, the church, intellectuals in universities who saw it as somehow dumbing down. Television ownership exploded and continued to do so through the 1950s as people realised that actually what ITV are offering is pretty good, we really like it. And soon the television set became the must-have domestic item.
Ready the vision mixers, sound mixers, cameramen, directors. Ready all those who have made this possible. 0 hour is on us.
The BBC, in a rather high-handed way, purported to have this kind of superior denial of ITV's existence. They didn't really care about this kind of new kid on the block, that it was going to be a passing phase, and pretended it didn't really exist. But on the very night of ITV's launch in September 1955, radio was still king at the time, and The Archers was by far the most popular radio programme. Now, on the night of ITV's launch, the leading character, Grace Archer, who'd only previously just got married and was the nation's darling, was beloved, was dramatically killed off in a stable fire in a moment of absolute drama, ensuring that the conversations taking place in officers' factories the next day was not about ITV but about Grace Archer's death. So it was a very, the BBC said they didn't care, but they actually cared very much.
Friends Jill and Michelle from Deal have been ITV viewers from the start.
It was a really homely thing, wasn't it?
It was a homely thing, and we would have, my father would go out and buy a box of chocolates, and we would, or ice cream.
Or bring home fish and chips and newspaper.
Yes,
as a treat, as
and
supper.
We'd sit down and we'd look forward to it.
Yeah.
And on a Sunday night, my mother would, my brother and I would be bathed and hair washed, ready for school the next day, and then we'd sit down and
Sunday,
watch.
Val Parnell, Sunday night at the London Palladium
Yes.
with the Tiller Girls.
Yes, yes.
But what was infuriating at times with the television in those days, you'd be watching something really exciting, you were totally gripped, totally absorbed, the fire's on, the family's there, and the blimmin' picture would start rolling, and you'd have to turn knobs to try to stop.
Didn't you have an aerial on top of it?
Yeah,
you used to have to
twist the aerial
around,
and
hold it up and everything.
Yes. Stop rolling! I was watching
Whereas
that.
now, you just pause it, there's catch up.
Yes. Oh, it was hilarious.
Southern TV launched in 1958. And over the decades, the franchise has changed, meaning different companies have had the honour of being the ITV broadcaster based in our region.
I like it because I get all my local news, it's topical, right up to the moment.
The weather report, I think, is really good.
I like the people, they're so friendly. I like Day by Day because there's something on different every evening.
Day by Day began in 1961. Its first producer, John Borman, who became a world-renowned film director.
OK, well, look, we'll do it in the studio, and we'll record him and get him away by 4 o'clock.
Southern's new centre.
Southern TV opened its new studios in Southampton in 1969, with TVS and then Meridian following. Jan Beale worked for all three companies, eventually becoming Meridian's general manager, 40 years after joining Southern as a news copy taker.
It was exciting because everything was live for a start. So we had to get everything right straight away. There was no rehearse, record. It was, everything that we did was live. And everything was in black and white. And that changed, obviously, in 1969. And some people had to think about colour in a way that they hadn't thought before.
What was it like being a woman working in TV?
I found it quite challenging at times, although I didn't know any better at the age of 18. I thought this was what working life was like because I hadn't had a great experience of it. To give you one example, as I'd been a news copy taker and I was a production secretary and then a production assistant, there was a vacancy for a floor manager, and I thought this was a good step in the rung, and I applied. And I got a memo back from personnel saying it wasn't Southern's policy to employ female floor managers. So I asked to see the personnel officer and asked why, and he said because women simply aren't strong enough to run a floor of men. It was as simple as that.
Southern TV opened the Dover studios in 1961, bringing the news to Kent and East Sussex. Bill Evans was a freelance journalist. His son told me about the impact of Day by Day and Seen South East.
To see TV pictures of events happening just down the road for the first time really was revolutionary. Until then, you might have had one main channel talking about events around London, other parts of England and across the world, but nothing that felt really close to home.
While the BBC had the licence fee, ITV embraced advertising.
The tingle you get when you brush with SR is much more than a nice taste. It's a tingle of health.
Hi, David.
Hello.
Great to see you.
And you, sir.
I went to see David Lifford in Dymchurch, an engineer at the Southern Studios in the 60s, who helped set up the Maidstone Studios for TVS in the 80s.
As an engineer, if you saved a commercial break, you saved more than your year's salary. So if you had to do something that's going to interrupt transmission, you did it in the programme time, because doing it in the commercial break was going to cost them money, hit them in the wallet.
Much has changed, from what we broadcast to how we broadcast. And 70 years on, ITV continues to evolve with the times. Andrew Pate, ITV News.
Jubilation and surprise as an education.